Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Shunvatam Swakata Krishnaha Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantostihi Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We are continuing with our discussion of the first canto. In the previous session, we touched upon chapter 1.3. Very specifically, our focus was on 1.3.28. And we spoke of the fact that there is the concept of a Paribhasha Sutra, which is fundamentally one verse from an entire body of scripture, and that verse becomes the essence or represents the essence of the entire conclusion of the scriptures. So for the Srimad Bhagavatam, very specifically, we are looking at 1.3.28, first canto, third chapter, and it is verse 28. So we will briefly touch upon the verse again, and then we will get into a discussion which is going to cover other verses of the third chapter. So we'll understand the concepts. One 1.3.28, if all of you have, or you do have a copy of the first canto. Ete chamshah kala pumshah Kṛṣṇastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord, but Lord Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. So the speciality of this verse is basically the fact that it is talking about Krishna being the original personality of Godhead, while every other incarnation is a portion or a portion of a portion or an avesha or a vibhuti, someone who has been empowered by the Lord in certain special ways. So what we do find is that Krishna has not been empowered. He does not have a source. And why is this verse the Paribhasha Sutra? Why is it the essence? Because Srimad Bhagavatam differs from every other scripture in wanting to explore the concept of fundamentally reaching the concept of understanding the absolute truth. The Bhagavatam wants to differ. The Bhagavatam does not want to talk about God. The Bhagavatam wants to discuss the absolute truth. And why is the absolute truth different from God? I'm pursuing this again and again. Why is the absolute truth different from God? Feel free to speak up, please. What is the difference?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, absolute Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. By other gods are like his, incarnations and like that. So, like in this verse, it says, Krishna is the original, but the other incarnations are kala, parts and parts of the parts of Krishna.
True.
Like expansion
So
and
my question
expansions. Is that what?
No, my question more had more to do with what is the distinction between God and absolute truth?
Right. Absolute truth. Krishna is in Golok Vrindavan. Krishna with two hands, and other god is like, Vaikuntha, like Vishnu Tattva with 4 hands?
No, not necessarily, because the point I wanted to make is that your answers are right, but at the same time, the difference between absolute truth and God has to do with the fact that the absolute truth encompasses the personal feature of God and all his relationships. While if you want to discuss God, then you will be talking about him as a creator, maintainer, and destroyer. The Bhagavatam distinguishes itself that it does not have a specific focus on discussing God in his feature as a creator, maintainer, and destroyer, but more so in helping one reach a relationship with him because he is the absolute truth. The difference between the word absolute truth and God is the absolute truth encompasses the personal feature of God with relationships. This is critical for the followers of Gaudiya Siddhanta. Why is this critical for the followers of Gaudiya Siddhanta? Is because our goal in life is for us to develop a personal relationship with Krishna, very specifically in his particular manifestation as the Supreme Lord here in Vrindavan, in Goloka. This is very specific. This is basically got to do with developing a personal relationship with God and in Vrindavan, in Goloka. So the Bhagavatam deals with the very personal aspect of a personal relationship with God. That's the absolute feature, where nothing about him is left out. We are now wanting to play the role and understand the depth of his relationship with his mother. We are wanting to understand very personal aspects of his existence and the different features of his relationship with how he behaves with his friends. What does he do? What kind of food does he eat? Now we're going into an area which is considered to be all-encompassing, which is practically, it encompasses everything that you can learn about God. So the Bhagavatam is focused on that. So the Bhagavatam super specializes in that particular subject matter. That's the first point. Second, we are also learning that with Krishna in Goloka, there is a certain specific attribute of devotees who approach him in Goloka, is that they have to give up any form of aspiration for fruitive desires, and they have to give up any form of aspiration, particularly for even liberation. This is true with all the avatars in Vaikuntha, but more so with Krishna, because here we are aiming for a very personal relationship, and there really is nothing else. So, Anya Bilashita Shunyam, Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, Anukulyana Krishna Anuchilinam Bhakti Rotama. So, this is basically the aspect of the absolute feature of God. We are wanting to develop a relationship with him in one of the 4 aspects of relationships as given by Lord Chaitanya. The aspect of relationship as a servant, Dasya, as a friend, Sakya, as a parent, Vatsalya, and as an associate and a servant of Srimati Radharani who serves him as a consort. Yeah? So this is basically the 4 primary relationships, and we are being asked to focus on these. And these is the goal of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. Now, the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta, we don't preoccupy ourselves so much with Krishna as the destroyer, maintainer, and creator. Our preoccupation is with developing a personal relationship. So let's be very clear right at the onset that when we are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, when we are chanting the holy names, we are doing so to develop prema and love. Prema has to happen with an understanding of our identity. It has to happen with an understanding of Krishna's absolute feature. We have to know who is surrounding him, what does he do, what time of the day, what is he involved in. All of this is the topic and the first subject matter of the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam deals with the cream of Vedic scripture. It is also dealing with the essence, and it is also very different from every other topic which has been discussed, the different Puranas. And this is so special because there is a personal feature of God. We should always remember that that's the reason why it's different. This has the personal feature of God, where we are trying to understand the relationships. We are trying to understand his different aspects of the relationships. Now, having said that, we want to proceed further in understanding the description of the different incarnations. To have an understanding of the absolute feature of God, one also needs to understand God. So let's talk about the God part. Here we talk about the fact that everything and everything comes from Kṛṣṇa. So how do these expansions begin? Kṛṣṇa has no origin. He is the source of all incarnations. He is the avatari. The relationships in Goloka encompass the relationships of devotees in every other realm. In Ayodhya, with Lord Sri Ram, you find aspects of Sakya, you find aspects of Dasya. It is encompassed in the relationship which devotees have in Goloka. The relationship of devotees of Lord Narasimha are encompassed here in Goloka in terms of being able to capture the essence. In one sense, one who is a devotee of the Lord in Goloka can have a much deeper understanding of devotional service in other realms. Why is this so? It is because the relationship in Goloka with Kṛṣṇa encompasses and is the essence of every other relationship which is found. One can access and understand Ayodhya whilst being in Goloka. One can understand and access the avatars of Lord Narasimhadev and the relationship that he has with Prahlad Maharaj and his other devotees whilst being in Goloka. One can understand the essence of the relationship. One can understand it. Why is it so? Because the sum total and the amalgamation and the essence of all those relationships is contained in Kṛṣṇa in Goloka. So in one word, what we are trying to say is, one has the capacity to understand everything if one has a particular relationship with Kṛṣṇa within the boundaries of Vraja. If you are within the boundaries of Vraja and you have a very specific relationship with Kṛṣṇa within Vraja, there would also be a good understanding of other philosophies, other relationships as well. It's easy to understand. Why is it easy to understand? It is because it is all encompassing. It's difficult to understand the relationship of the Vraja Bhaktis. It is difficult to understand the relationship of those in Vraja if you were to have a relationship with Lord Sri Ram in Ayodhya. Lakshman in Ayodhya is an expansion of Balaram. Lakshman in Ayodhya is an expansion of Balaram. It is said that there was a certain delineation where he felt that there was so much formality in the relationship between him and Lord Sri Ram that he wanted to serve, but at the same time, there was so much formality because of the position of Lord Sri Ram as the king, that Lakshman wanted, in one sense, to enjoy the relationship of proximity, friendship, in combination with brotherhood. And that's when the next avatar of Kṛṣṇa provided Lakshman the opportunity to play the role of a parent, because Lakshman was Balaram. Balaram, being in Vatsalya Ras, was also playing the role of a parent. He used to be protective towards his younger brother. Balaram, being in Sakya Ras, he used to be equal. He used to be equal. Balaram, as a das, he used to serve Kṛṣṇa. So the relationship in Vraja, if we take the example of Balaram, encompasses so many different features in addition to just servitude and brotherhood, which is experienced in Lord Rama's pastime in Ayodhya. In one sense, Goloka, being in Goloka, would give you a direct glimpse of relationships in other incarnations. Why so? It's because the other incarnations do not have the flavors of relationships that you find in Goloka, in Vrindavan very specifically. You don't have that. It's not there. If you talk about friendship in Goloka, it's pure friendship. Vishramba. What does it mean when you talk about pure friendship in Goloka? Pure friendship in Goloka would mean that the friend would see Kṛṣṇa as being equal. Lord Ram had friends during Ramavatar in Ayodhya and during his pastimes. There was deep formality in those friendships. In Goloka, the formality is removed. And one is able to directly ride on Kṛṣṇa's back. They climb on Kṛṣṇa's back. They put whatever is in their mouth into Kṛṣṇa's mouth. They take from Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa takes from them. This is Vishramba. There's absolute purity in the quality of friendship, where one is able to understand the friendship from the perspective of, it's in its absolute sense, the fullest degree. In the purest form, friendship exists in Goloka between the cowherd boys and Kṛṣṇa. Why is it so? Because they have no conception of Kṛṣṇa being God. There is absolutely no formality. While there are friendships in other realms with Kṛṣṇa's incarnations, there are friendships, but there is formality. So the point being that you can understand the purest essence of every relationship if you are in Goloka. The point being, Kṛṣṇa's relationships in Goloka are the summum bonum. It is the essence of every other relationship that is found. Every other relationship is but a modification of the relationship found in Goloka. This is rasa. This is rasa. If you are a Gaudiya Vaishnava, wanting to taste rasa should be your goal. Not to say that you want to pretend to be something that you're not, but more so of wanting to be in one of the specific relationship with Kṛṣṇa is the special opportunity being offered by the Gaudiya Siddhanta. It's a special opportunity because the acharyas, when you take initiation in a line, the predecessor acharyas, their experiences are passed on to us when they give us mantras. The predecessor acharyas' experiences are passed on to us when they speak and the sound vibrations reach our ears. Their own realizations, their sambandha with Kṛṣṇa is revealed into our hearts. As a consequence, when you take initiation or come in touch with a certain acharya, a certain guru of a certain guru varga, a certain disciplic succession, the experience of the disciplic succession is also passed on to a sincere chanter of the holy name in that line. So as a consequence, what we are trying to say is, this is our special opportunity that the lineage that we belong to, leading up to Lord Chaitanya and beyond, leading up to Lord Chaitanya, have had the highest experiences of rasa, relationship with God. They have literally understood the meaning of absolute truth. They have understood the essence and the whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam and how it is super special compared to every other scriptural work. And as a consequence, we have this special opportunity. So we shouldn't be wasting any time whatsoever in pursuing the goals given by our spiritual masters, because this opportunity is one of the rarest opportunities one can get. Now let's get into understanding time. Yeah, we just spoke about time. I disrupted your day because I had not understood time, the complexity of time between UK and India. So I apologize. We want to talk about spiritual and material time. We want to understand time. If we don't understand time, we would not be able to understand how things proceed. First and foremost, what is the difference between material time and spiritual time? I just need one qualitative difference. What is the difference between material time and spiritual time? When we use the word time, what does the time factor mean if it were to be considered in the material sky versus the spiritual sky? What is the time factor? Okay, Mayapur Prabhu is saying it is always present. So are you trying to say, Mayapur Prabhu, Madhava Prabhu, that there is no past and there is no future? It is always in the present? Is that also a conclusion that we can go to? Yes. Okay. What else?
Hare Krishna, bro. Material time always deteriorates everything.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Ravindra Babu, bro.
Ravindra Babu. Yeah, good. Material time means destruction. Material time means destruction. Exactly. So when Kṛṣṇa displays his universal form in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? He says, time I am. He says, time I am. He is basically Kala. When we use the word Kala in the material paradigm, it means that there is a destructive factor included. The moment we start saying someone was born at a certain time, along with that particular moment, the time of destruction is also present. Destruction is a part of beginnings. Beginnings have an end in the material realm. Beginnings have an end. So there's always destruction. So understand that there's destruction. There is destruction in the material world. And when we use the word time in the material context, we literally are talking about destruction, kala, time. Now, this time factor in the material world is also needing some understanding. It requires some understanding. It is said that 1 year of a human being is equivalent to 1 day of the Devas. During Chaturmas, every year we have 4 months. Every year we have 4 months of Chaturmasya, right? August, not exactly, but end of July through end of November. End of July to end of November, Kartik is one of those months. So within the particular period of a demigod's day, which is 1 year for a human being, there are 4 months of Chaturmasya. And in those 4 months of Chaturmasya, it is said that the Lord and the demigods are resting. It is said that the Lord and the demigods are resting for 4 months of Chaturmasya. No auspicious function is performed. But in the Vedic science, we don't allow the function, anything to be done during Chaturmasya, which is specifically connected to material aspects, mundane aspects. The only thing that is permitted is for those of us to go deeper and deeper into spiritual work. We can go and Chaturmasya, special vows are taken. Chaturmasya, there is a special, I would say, vratas are taken, fasting is taken, and then we are trying to focus on chanting of the holy names. These 4 months, the Lord is supposed to be resting. And this is 1 day of the 1 day of the demigods. It is 1 day of the demigods. Now, interestingly, there's 1 day of the demigods, which is 1 year for us. Now, consider the context of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma, who is the creator, the secondary creator, he operates 1 day, and in 1 day there are 1,000 yuga cycles, and 1,000 yuga cycles in a night. 1,000 yuga cycles essentially means there are 1,000 Kali Yugas, 1,000 Dwapara, 1,000 Treta, and 1,000 Satya Yuga cycles in 1 day. In 1 day. And in the night, an equal time. In other words, there is destruction, and then there is creation. So there are yuga cycles which operate in Lord Brahma's day. 1,000 yuga cycles, 1 day of Lord Brahma. This is given in the scripture as well. So the same Lord Brahma, in one particular day of his, there are opportunities for all the incarnations of the Lord to appear in practically every yuga cycle in different ways. So there are 1,000 different opportunities for incarnations to appear, because there are 4 different types of yugas and there are 1,000 cycles. Different types of incarnations appear and leave during 1 day of Lord Brahma. It's just phenomenal for you to understand that in 1 year of ours is 1 day of the demigods. And then now you have Lord Brahma, who is sitting at the highest level of the material universe. His 1 day is 1,000 yuga cycles. What is the difference between Lord Brahma's day versus a human being's day? What have we understood? What is the difference between a demigod's day versus a human being's day or a human being's year? What's the difference? What is the difference?
Hare Krishna, their day is shorter than ours.
Sorry?
They experience the time shorter, like a shorter period of time, and we experience it at a longer period of time.
You're talking about a relative scale. A human year, for example, a demigod's 1 day is basically a human's 1 year. So basically the lifespan is much longer. That's what you're trying to get at. What's the difference? Yeah, what's the difference otherwise? What is it that we're talking about? We're talking about time. A human being's lifespan, if you're born as a human being and you're born again and again as human beings, we meet destruction more number of times than a demigod would. Does everybody agree? We meet destruction more number of times than a demigod would.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Wouldn't that be an appropriate conclusion?
Yeah.
Lord Brahma meets destruction far fewer times than a demigod would, because Lord Brahma is 1 day is 1,000 cycles of the yugas. 4,000 cycles. In 4 yugas, multiplied by 1,000 cycles. He basically has to undergo far less number of experiences of destruction than the demigods. The demigods have to experience far less in destruction compared to us. We experience a lot of destruction because the lifespans are short. We keep coming back again and again. More destruction as a human body than as a demigod body, less destruction for Brahma. So what are we looking at? We're basically seeing that the quality of time is very different in different realms. In our realm, which is this planet, time is very destructive. We experience destruction much sooner. Things deteriorate at a much faster pace on this realm than they do in the realm of the Devas. Lord Brahma experiences far, 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 far less destruction than a demigod would during his lifespan in terms of his time. The frequency is very less. Why is this so? Does anybody have an answer as to why is it so that we experience far greater level of destruction compared to the demigods? Demigods experience far more than Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma has the least amount of destruction because he lives for such a long span and a relative sense. What is this factor? What is it which is different now in the different realms? The quality of time is different from here up there. What's the difference?
It's the time factor, Prabhu.
Yes, it is the time factor. I'm asking about the quality. What is the difference in quality? You know, we have to learn to process Bhagavatam in a much simpler way. The simpler way is, for example, we really don't need to break down when we talk about time. We need to understand that in a human life, in the human body, in the material realm, in the material world, and talking about the planet, this planet, the mode of ignorance predominates at a much larger pace than the mode of goodness. Because the mode of ignorance is so predominant, as a consequence, our bodies get destroyed faster. If you go higher to the Devas, the mode of ignorance is far less. If you go below where we stay, to the Asuras and the Nagas, the mode of ignorance is much higher. So there's a very dense level of suffering which they go through, which they can't even recognize that they're suffering. If you go higher, it's predominated by goodness. When something is predominated by goodness, it will last longer. In Lord Brahma's realm, it is almost pure goodness. It's not pure goodness, it's almost pure goodness. There's very little contact with passion and ignorance. What does this tell you? What is the message that we are supposed to get from the different levels of time and the fact that time differs and the quality of time differs? There's destruction of time, there's destruction in our level, there's less destruction for the demigods, far less destruction for Lord Brahma. What does this tell you when we say that it's purely a function of being predominated by a certain mode? Go back also to the fact that during Satya Yuga, lifespans used to be much longer. Why? Because this planet was predominated by goodness. Because it was predominated by goodness, bodies used to last longer and the construct of the bodies used to be different. The quality of food used to be different. The quality of air used to be different. So when the Satya Yuga period was on, and even Dwapar Yuga, you read in Srimad Bhagavatam that there was very frequent entry and exit of demigods. You read about it in Srimad Bhagavatam that they say the sun god appeared, the moon god appeared, Lord Indra appears, and this demigod appears. You also hear about Kṛṣṇa's incarnations appear in front of devotees and give them darshan. Why do you see that in previous yugas, these incarnations appeared, these demigods were able to come and go. They were able to come and go quite easily because the quality of time on this realm matched the quality of time in higher realms. The quality of time in this particular realm matched the quality of time in higher realms, and this allowed frequent entry because the quality was such that they felt like they could come and go. Please understand this. This is very important as a concept, simply to understand that the quality of time is predominated by goodness would mean that something is going to last longer. Predominated by goodness would mean less suffering. Do we hear that the devas have superior quality of enjoyment? Do we hear that? Yes, we do. In Swarga, in the higher realms, we hear that the demigods have a better quality of enjoyment. Why is it so? If you could kindly put yourself on mute, please. If someone is not on mute, I can hear some reverberations. So, very clearly, why is it that we could hear that Brahma's time, Lord Brahma's time, is so different? It is because Brahma Loka is predominated by pure goodness, almost pure goodness. The quality there is like the spiritual sky, almost like the spiritual sky. There is destruction, but at a much slower pace, much slower pace, much slower pace. So what is it that we need to understand is that the more we predominate ourselves with goodness, the greater would be our access to higher truths. The more we predominate ourselves in our presence with goodness, the greater would be our presence and access to higher truths. If you are going to maintain a transcendental lifestyle, the greater and greater the opportunity to come in touch with realities that are not normally feasible. So one can be in this planet, one can be in this planet in 2019, raise their consciousness above the material modes and experience the spiritual sky whilst being in one of these bodies. Whilst being in one of these bodies. I read, and someone shared this, that there were a group of saints, and these were Christian monks in some Eastern European country in a mountaintop, and they had a very, very significant rigor, or I would say practice, in that particular monastery. When someone reached a certain age and they felt that they wanted to just focus on chanting a certain mantra or a certain chant or a hymn which was connected to the Christian tradition, with the tradition they belonged to, they wanted to dedicate themselves. They would go into a cave. These monks would go into a cave, and people would seal the cave from outside. There would be openings in the cave. They would be regularly given vegetarian fruits, vegetarian food. They would not come out. The only thing that will come out is the body. They would spend their entire lifetime in the cave, in the company of others who are also of the similar nature, and they will not see daylight. They would just sit and chant. They would not be bothered about what is required. They would be fed fruits. They would be given certain kind of nourishment through certain openings. They were sealed in for the rest of their lifetime. What was very significant, I've heard, is when one of these monks died, they had to break open the cave and bring them out. And they used to say that they never used to know, because the food used to be left 1 week at a time. Sometimes someone used to die and they used to be dead for almost 2-3 days, because they have just engaged in spiritual practice and nothing else. The bodies used to be very supple. The bodies never used to go into rigor mortis. It never used to get, unwieldy. They could bring these bodies out and it would all be very supple. You can touch it and you will feel it's still very soft, even though the person has passed away some time back. Why is this so? It's because that body has engaged so much in activities that are beyond the material modes, that body has also been considerably transformed to last longer. The body itself has been transformed to last longer. As a consequence, you will find that the body itself is quite supple. We had a similar experience a few years back. One of Srila Prabhupada's disciples when he passed away, and he was brought into Vrindavan, and his samadhi was constructed in Radhakund. I'm talking about Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. He passed away in Calcutta, and by the time they interred his spiritual body into the samadhi, by the time the whole samadhi ceremony was done, because the whole body was kept in samadhi, but then it was almost a 2-day or 2.5-day process. When I spoke to some of the disciples, they shared that the body was very, very soft. The fingers and the toes were very pliable, even though Maharaj had left his body 2 days prior. Why is it so that that body did not destroy itself or go into such destruction, even though it was meant to? It was because while the body was being occupied, it was predominated by transcendental activities. It was predominated by activities that were beyond the material modes. There was very little mode of ignorance. As a consequence, the body was still very pliable. It was very soft. It was not decaying like it would normally would. There would be rapid decay. It wasn't. Why so? Because it was predominated by goodness. As a consequence, what we are trying to convey here is that destruction basically is a function of the mode of ignorance. And when one practices Krishna consciousness and your practice is very serious, then you have the ability to transcend this destruction and to experience a higher realm while being in one of these bodies. There's very little which happens to the person whilst they're in this body, even though they're meant to go through all kinds of changes. This is the same principle which allows a demigod to exist for many, 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 many more years. This is the same principle that allows Lord Brahma to exist for many, many, many more years. The quality of time differs. The quality of time is very different when we come into the realm of the mode of goodness. This is very important for us to understand. The time factor is all about destruction. And as we go higher, there's less and less predomination of the mode of ignorance. As a consequence, there's a longer span of life. And this is very true when we reach the spiritual sky, because in the spiritual sky, there is pure goodness. In pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, there is absolutely no influence of the material mode of ignorance. There's no influence of the material mode of passion. In Suddha Sattva, there is no such thing as destruction. So the quality of time is pure goodness, is fully present. There is no such thing as destruction in the spiritual sky. This is a very important principle to understand, because this is also a lifestyle question for those of us who are in spiritual practice. Not so much to focus on the mode of goodness as a means of attaining a mode of goodness, more so in understanding that the concept of mode of goodness is extraordinarily useful and friendly and needed for one to practice the Siddhanta that is given by our Acharyas. Changing our eating habits, changing when we go to bed, when we wake up, changing what we do during the day, changing what we come in touch with during the day, what we do. This is so important for us, because higher and higher the mode of ignorance in the activities that we engage in, lesser the chance of us being able to retain any amount of Vedic knowledge. Why? Because it is going to get destroyed. What we gain today is destruction. It will be destroyed. When we say that someone has a poor memory, what is the cause? Poor memory is a function of the mode of ignorance. Poor memory is a function of the mode of ignorance, because there is a certain amount of a predomination or destruction that is occurring in their psychological or subtle bodies, and the connection between the subtle body and the physical body, which allows them basically to experience this destruction. They're not able to remember things. Why is it that people can't remember things? They can't remember because they're in touch with the mode of ignorance. They can't. So the more and more we move away from all of this to the mode of goodness, the greater our position. The greater our position and our ability to move forward. This is so important for us to understand as practitioners. This whole concept of being able to go higher and seeing beings live longer is simply a concept of time which is devoid or minimal amount of mode of ignorance is present. Now let's understand spiritual time. The biggest function of material time is seen in the Purusha avatars. We'll talk a little bit now because this is the reminder of the number of verses that we have spoken of. It is a reminder of the 1.3. The early verses talk about the Purusha avatars. So the Siddhanta says, first you have Kṛṣṇa, and from Kṛṣṇa you have Balaram. Balaram and Kṛṣṇa are non-different. Balaram is a manifestation of Kṛṣṇa as Sevaka, wanting to serve. So Krishna's desire, basically, Balaram is Sevaka Bhagwan. There is no difference between Kṛṣṇa and Balaram, except that Balaram's entire existence is dedicated to serving Kṛṣṇa. Balaram's entire existence is dedicated to serving Kṛṣṇa. So when we talk about service, when we talk about management, when we talk about God, it starts from Balaram. Kṛṣṇa is the absolute truth. From Kṛṣṇa comes Balaram. From Balaram, there is Mula Sankarshana. Mula Sankarshana means he is the primary Sankarshana. First, the Sankarshana or the expansion of Balaram in the first quadruple form. So from Balaram, there is Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then again, there is one more expansion of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and that particular expansion, you have Mahasankarshana. This Mahasankarshana is again a second expansion of Balaram, third expansion in reality, and from him begins the Purusha avatars. So there are 3 Purusha avatars. Now let's understand material time in the context of the Purusha avatars. The first Purusha avatara is the incarnation of Mahasankarshana, who lies on the causal ocean. The causal ocean is called Karana. Karana, causal. Karana in Sanskrit is cause. Karano Dakashayi. Someone who is lying on the causal ocean. This Mahavishnu, who is the first Purusha avatara, he breathes in, and the entire material creation with different universes enter into the pores of his skin. So this entire material time is defined by the breathing in and breathing out of Karanodakashayi Vishnu. One breath. The breathing in and breathing out of Karanodakashayi Vishnu is practically the highest level of material time. In that particular breathing in and breathing out, you have the entire manifestation of universes entering into the pores of his skin. And you have universes coming into being. When he breathes in and breathes out, Brahmas come into being and Brahmas leave. The lifespan of Brahma is one inhalation and exhalation of Karanodakashayi Vishnu. As he lies on the causal ocean, he is inhaling and exhaling, and creation and destruction are being initiated by just one breath. So you can imagine that this is the highest level of material time. Beyond that, there is spiritual time. Because the Karana ocean, the causal ocean, lies between material creation and the spiritual sky. It is the specific boundary. It is the dividing line between the material creation and the spiritual sky. On that particular river, on that particular ocean, you have Mahavishnu lying right at the border of the spiritual sky. And he is basically breathing in and breathing out. And in his breathing in and breathing out, you can imagine how minuscule we are and how insignificant we are. His breathing in and breathing out manifests and unmanifests the different universes. All the Brahmas go in and come out, finished. In one breath, it's over for them. One breath of Mahavishnu, the entire lifespan of Brahma, and one day of Brahma is 1,000 cycles. You can imagine in one breath, Mahavishnu, it's over for him. It's over. It's like, it's finished. Just one breath of Mahavishnu is finished. So you can imagine counting and understanding eternal time is almost, you can say it's a waste of time. Trying to understand it by, I would say, analytical understanding of spiritual time is almost impossible. If you can imagine the whole concept that the highest level of material life is Karanodakashayi Vishnu breathing in and breathing out, that is the destruction that occurs there, is the ultimate destruction. The destruction that occurs there is the pull of destruction, which is being passed on down to all the different universes and the different realms of the material sky. He lies there. So understand that 75% is spiritual, 25% is material. Of the entire creation, 75% is spiritual, 25% in a corner is material. In the division of material and spiritual, there is a river, the causal ocean. On the causal ocean, there is Kṛṣṇa Vishnu. He lies there, and breathing in and breathing out, all the universes come and go, which is exactly the lifespan of Brahma. His one breath is the lifespan of Brahma. So you can imagine that you can imagine what is spiritual time from the concept of one lifespan of Brahma being one breath of Mahavishnu. Just imagine, it's just phenomenal, it's just inconceivable just to think of it. Now, this is spiritual time versus material time. Highest level Kṛṣṇa Vishnu, breathing in, breathing out. One breath is equaling Lord Brahma's one lifespan, depending on the different Brahmas. Which universe comes into his pores of his skin at which time, that is also controlled. But one breath, it gets capsized. Then you have Lord Brahma, whose situation is at the highest level of the material universe. And while being at the highest level of the material universe, he is also experiencing 1,000 yuga cycles during his day. Because he is predominated by goodness, but there is still destruction. As a consequence, he experiences destruction. Then you have the demigods, whose one day is equivalent to 1 year of ours. They are experiencing less destruction than we do in terms of the repeats. And we ourselves, basically, are experiencing the maximum amount of destruction compared to the higher realms. Now, this is material time. The Purusha avatars, Balaram expands into Kṛṣṇa Vishnu. It is Lord Balaram. He tells Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa, you don't worry. You continue playing the flute. You continue doing everything you need. You have all the fun. I'm supposed to do all the heavy lifting. I will do all the heavy lifting, Kṛṣṇa. You don't bother. I am the one who is supposed to serve you. You just enjoy yourself. You are God. You're meant to enjoy yourself. You are the absolute truth. Go steal butter. Do whatever you need to do. Dance with the gopis. Do all your stuff that you do. I will take care of all the official business. So Balaram expands and he comes out of Raja. He becomes Mula Sankarshana, Maha Sankarshana, Kṛṣṇa Vishnu, the first Vishnu who lies in the causal ocean. When he manifests the universes through the breathing process and they start coming out of the pores of his skin, he then feels the universe needs to be supported. He then expands and enters into the universe, and he lies on the body of water within the universe. What is this Vishnu called? He is called Garbhodaka Vishnu. Why is it called Garbha? What does Garbha mean? What does it mean? Sorry?
Womb.
The womb. Yeah, the womb. So the womb of the universe. In the womb of the universe, there is the Garbhodaka ocean. So consider the universe as a like egg-shaped, elliptical shape. It's not a perfect circle. It's an ellipse. It's an elliptical, shaped circle. It's an ellipse. Consider that. And then half of that is filled with water called the Garbhodaka ocean. On this ocean, the second incarnation of the Purusha avatars lies down. He is called Garbhodaka Vishnu. This is a normal picture of Mahavishnu that we see. He lies on Sesha. From his navel, you have a lotus stem. And then on the lotus, you have Lord Brahma. This is Garbhodaka Vishnu. He lies on the Garbhodaka ocean. He lies on the Garbhodaka ocean. This is Garbhodaka Vishnu. Then creation happens, where from his navel, there is this particular stem of the lotus, and then on top of the lotus, you have Lord Brahma sitting. And Lord Brahma is now also creating the 14 universes that are below. So there are 7 universes above the earthly planet, and then, 7 planetary systems above, and there's 7 planets below. So the 14 planets. planetary systems. These are being created by Lord Brahma while sitting on the lotus which sprouts from the navel of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Now, women, Matajis, those of you who have experienced pregnancy, have you noticed that there is a great similarity between the construct of the universe versus the construct of the woman's body, especially during pregnancy? You have the whole concept of the water. The fetus lies on the water. So there's creation occurring. There's a connection between the mother and the unborn fetus through the navel. Do you realize that there's this construct of the universe and the construct of the woman's body is almost identical? Now, do you remember the incarnation? Do you remember the incarnation of the Lord who goes deep inside the Garbhodaka ocean, uplifts the earth planet and brings it back? Who remembers that incarnation? Incarnation. Sorry? Varahadev. Exactly. Now, Lord Varaha is facilitating creation. Lord Varaha is facilitating creation. He is practically facilitating creation by ensuring that the whole process of creation take place. So this is a very, very important construct. Now, many devotees who have contacted me during their pregnancies, especially if there was a risky pregnancy, one of the most effective remedies is to propitiate Lord Varaha. Why is it so? Because he protects pregnancies just as he protected Mother Earth and brought her up and placed her back on the Garbhodaka ocean. This is actually a very, very effective prayer which can be offered to Lord Varaha because he really protects the process of creation. So this is the construct of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Now, when Lord Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is lying in the universe in the Garbhodaka ocean, and Lord Brahma starts creating, the position of Brahma is Satyaloka, while the lower planetary systems are also in the different levels beyond. Now, we also understand from this. What do we understand from this? What do we understand? Beyond this, there is a third Purusha incarnation. This third Purusha incarnation is an expansion of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. The Vishnu who lies in the Garbhodaka ocean within the universe, supporting the universe. What is the support he is giving the universe? Anybody? What support does Lord Vishnu give to the universe?
Maintenance, Prabhu.
Yes, maintenance. He helps the universe float.
Yeah.
Literally. The floating of the universe has happened due to the potency of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu who is lying within. The entire universe functions because he is lying within. The whole function of creation, maintenance, destruction happens because he is lying within. And then the next is Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. The Kshirodakashayi Vishnu basically is an expansion of the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. This expansion, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu's first expansion, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, what is he also called? What is he called?
Karnavasaya Vishnu.
Sorry, say that again.
Karnavasaya Vishnu.
Oh no, that's the first one. The second one is Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Then the third one is the Purusha avatar called the Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. What else is he? What's his function?
Super soul, Paramatma.
Exactly. He is the super soul. He's the Paramatma. This Paramatma is very specifically the personality who also incarnates as different incarnations. He incarnates as different incarnations. This Paramatma is the personality. So in different incarnations, you have some incarnations who have a predominance of the Paramatma. In some incarnations, there is a division of the Jiva and the Paramatma. So in Rama, for example, Rama, Varaha, Narasimha, Kṛṣṇa, it's 100% Paramatma. There are other incarnations who have a Jiva and Paramatma as a combination. So the Paramatma Amsa is a little less. So there are different levels of incarnations as well. But the Karanodakashayi Vishnu expanding into Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expanding into Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, every one of these expansions is to maintain. It is to maintain. It is to maintain. So it is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, the personality who lies within the ocean, who expands as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The Vishnu expansion is Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. The Vishnu expansion is Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. So these are basically expansions of the Lord who are maintaining, destroying, and creating. These are expansions of the Lord who are maintaining, destroying, and creating. This is God. This is godly business, maintenance, destruction, and creation. What's the difference between them and Kṛṣṇa? What's the difference between them and Kṛṣṇa?
Kṛṣṇa is relaxing and having his pastime, and the rest are working hard.
Yeah, well, they are not working as hard, but I would think, but they are working for sure. But Kṛṣṇa is having a lot of fun. Kṛṣṇa is just engaging with his devotees in that sense. So there is this absolute feature of God where he has a lot of relationships and he's enjoying with his relationships. And then there is this feature of God as a maintainer, destroyer, and creator. So there is a distinction between the two. Srimad Bhagavatam educates us from the first through the 9 cantos on the features of God who maintain, destroy, and create, in the sense that they're somewhat limited. They're somewhat limited in exhibiting qualities of rasa. Underline the word rasa. They're somewhat limited in exhibiting the qualities fully of the different rasas. Somewhat partial. They don't exhibit all the rasas fully. But in Kṛṣṇa, you have everything. All the rasas are fully, to the fullest extent, in the purest form, displayed in Kṛṣṇa's incarnation, Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. The fullest, purest form. They're being displayed in Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. This is the difference. The fundamental difference is relationships. The fundamental difference is relationships. The second difference is there's a predominance of opulence which surrounds the incarnations of Kṛṣṇa. There's a predominance of sweetness which surrounds Kṛṣṇa. There is Aishwaryamayi, and then there is Madhuryamayi. Madhurya, sweetness, overwhelms the omnipotence and the omniscience and the power of God in Vrindavan. Kṛṣṇa is overwhelmed. Kṛṣṇa's incarnation represents the overwhelming sweetness because his entire opulence is being overwhelmed by sweetness. In the Bhagavatam, you read about the fact that when Sri Uddhava, Kṛṣṇa's relative Uddhava, he is visiting from Dwaraka, he is entering into Vrindavan. While he's entering into Vrindavan, it's nightfall, it's sunset. You have thousands of cows coming home. You have the hooves of cows raising up a lot of dust. And as they're all entering into Vrindavan, it is said, the Acharyas are writing, our Gurus are writing, our Acharya Varga is writing. They're saying that the opulence of Dwaraka is covered over by the dust of the hooves of cows in Vrindavan. The sweetness of the dust of the hooves of cows in Vrindavan covers over the opulence of Dwaraka. So the opulence of Kṛṣṇa's incarnations are covered over by the sweetness of Kṛṣṇa's pastimes. So there is a big difference. So the Bhagavatam, up to 9 cantos, is preparing us, giving us different examples of different levels of bhakti. It is showing us what is Mishra Bhakti. It is telling us that this is called Mishra Bhakti because there is a particular level, or it is tainted with a desire for liberation. This is Mishra Bhakti because it is tainted with a desire for achieving things. Now, this is pure Bhakti. So they are distinguishing different levels of Bhakti. They're educating us on different levels of Bhakti. They're also educating us on the different incarnations and what is their motivation. And then they're finally coming to discuss the sweetness of God. The sweetness of God is in the 10th canto. The sweetness of God, Kṛṣṇa, where sweetness predominates opulence, is being discussed in the 10th canto. He takes over after that. The first 9 cantos prepare you, and the 10th canto gives you the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first 9 cantos prepare us. They're basically giving us an idea as to what the difference would be. They're preparing us to accept Kṛṣṇa. 10th canto gives us Kṛṣṇa. because there it is complete sweetness. Devotees who are connected to Dwaraka can't understand Vraja. What to say of those who are connected to other Vaikuntha realms? They can't understand Vraja Bhakti. So the sweetness of Vraja Bhakti is hidden in the 10th canto. That's the reason why there's an advice which is being given to those of us who are serious studies, who are entering into serious studies of Bhagavatam. Don't jump into the 10th canto. There's a need for preparation. You need to understand God in his different features before you understand him as the absolute truth. The feature of being an absolute truth is being spoken of in the 10th canto. His relationships are being highlighted. He is not being showcased as God. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas especially are gifted because they are particularly being awarded the experience of coming in touch with him in these rasas by the acharyas. I mentioned this earlier in today's class. If you're being initiated into a mantra in a certain parampara, the experience of the predecessors will come to you if you're a sincere disciple. The disciplic succession which has been handed over, if it has been taken on through sincere chanting, the previous experiences would come to us. Because the mantra that's being given to us, the guru mantras that are being given to us, the second initiation that is done, the first initiation, giving of Harinam, it contains all of this. It contains the essence of the sambandha, the relationship which our previous acharyas have had with Kṛṣṇa. When we start chanting sincerely, connecting to the lotus feet by serving them and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then automatically those relationships start flourishing in our heart. Why? Because it's been passed on by disciplic succession. It is contained within the mantra, it's contained within the service, it's contained within the instructions. Now, what is it? This is again a spot quiz from the previous week. What is it which qualifies us to hear Srimad Bhagavatam?
Hare Krishna. Christine, it's professional service to devotees.
So Vaishnav Seva qualifies us to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Correct. What happens when you engage in Vaishnav Seva?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you develop humility.
What else?
You develop the connection. You understand because who is Lord? What is every connection? So when
how do we understand? How do we understand? The point is, how do we understand Srimad Bhagavatam by serving a Vaishnava? Yes, the answer is correct. You have to serve the Vaishnava. By serving the Vaishnava, one develops the ability to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. But why? How does it happen?
You get mercy by those devotees. You pass on the mercies.
Yeah.
Yes. What else? Kṛṣṇa enables the ability to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. The incarnation of Kṛṣṇa, of Nama and Bhagavatam, these are all incarnations of Kṛṣṇa. Both the holy names and the Srimad Bhagavatam are incarnations. Kṛṣṇa enables the devotee, the one who serves his devotees nicely, is given the gift of being able to hear. This is not a one-time gift. It's a permanent gift. The ability to hear and the ability to transform scripture. When we talk about hearing, we talk about reading, understanding, being able to transform. When we read, we have the ability to transform scripture and be able to apply it in our lives. This ability is given by Kṛṣṇa when one serves his devotees. It's a simple, straightforward plan. He makes this promise. He says that I'm going to enable you to understand me. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is Kṛṣṇa himself. To understand Srimad Bhagavatam, he needs to give that blessing. And he gives that blessing when the devotees are served. The devotees themselves also bestow mercy, as one of you said. So service begets mercy. Bhakti goes from the heart of the devotee into our heart. Kṛṣṇa bestows that mercy of us being able to process his scripture, without which you can't process scripture without mercy. We can't understand. This enablement is done by Kṛṣṇa. It's a permanent gift. The hearing process is transformative. The hearing process is transformative because it has the ability, basically when they're saying they're going to give us the ability to hear, they're also saying very clearly that you will have the ability to develop realizations. This is what they're intending to say, because it is transformative. The reading process is transformed into realizations. This requires a gift. This gift is given by Kṛṣṇa when we serve devotees, Vaishnava Seva. Okay, so I'll stop here. In today's session, we basically briefly wanted to touch upon the Purusha Avataras, which are the subject matter of the preceding verses to 1.3.28. In further sessions, we probably would need 2 more sessions. We would completely cover this particular chapter as this is the core chapter, and then we'll proceed with chapter summaries from now on. We'll probably have 1 or 2 more sessions on this. So we understand why Srimad Bhagavatam is different. We understand why Kṛṣṇa is different. We examine the need to go through different incarnations to read about Kṛṣṇa. What is the understanding we gain? And then we also understand what is it that qualifies us to become readers and listeners of Srimad Bhagavatam. So any questions or comments as we go further, please? We end the session with your questions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is Padmavati Dasi. Prabhu, you mentioned about that subtle body, when you practice mode of goodness. So is it, I was just thinking, some days say Padepio's body is still there. So that means, is that body spiritual now? Is it why?
Sorry, can you just repeat the last statement? I misheard, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you must be aware of Padepio, who's a saint. And his
yes,
body,
I've heard of him.
Yeah, and his body is still there. So is it because the body is spiritual, it doesn't decay? Is it what you're saying, Prabhu? If it is,
it is 2 points. Number one, I have heard of Padre Pio. Isn't he the one who developed the signs of the stigmata? He developed the signs of the stigmata, and he was the one. He existed during the World War, wasn't he? Isn't he the one in Italy who existed during the World War? I'm just trying to place the person.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, he basically tried to stop some attacks and all these things. I remember reading about him. A special person, very devoted. To answer your question, I personally do not know about his body, but the point is, the essence of my speaking today on the time factor was to say that reversal of time occurs with our being able to rise in consciousness.
Okay.
Reversal of time occurs with our being able to rise in consciousness.
Okay.
Our entire lifespan, as decided when we were born in this planet, can be completely altered because of devotional service.
Yes.
The longevity can be completely changed. It's a fact which is not known to many, but the fact is, if someone, for example, is meant to exist on this planet for 70 years or 60 years, Kṛṣṇa can extend it, he can reduce it. This entire concept of time changes for that particular soul when they come close to Kṛṣṇa consciousness, because they are meant to basically use their time in such a way that they're able to serve Kṛṣṇa. So Kṛṣṇa intervenes directly in changing that. So the point I'm trying to make is, in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, we are directly coming in touch with the Supreme. Because we are doing so, our own existence, if it is predominated by goodness, we have the ability to change the influence of time.
Yes. Prabhu, can I just take this example, like Bilva Mangala Thakur's life, for what you're saying, because how his life changed, and ultimately the Kṛṣṇa he himself came to give every day a glass of milk to him. So it means he kept on changing his life too. Bilva Mangala Thakur's, like how he was before, he changed his way. Yeah.
Well, he's changing his way, but basically, true. There are many, many such instances in scripture in terms of change of character. And I was also wanting to just mention that the time factor changes based on where we are. It also changes based on what we do. the quality of time experienced by devotees is very different from the quality of time experienced by non-devotees.
Yes.
How things end for us is very different from how things end for someone who is not in devotional service. Why so? It's because our consciousness has crossed over. It has gone even beyond Lord Brahma. If you go to the spiritual sky, it has gone even beyond Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is within the material confines. If you enter into the spiritual sky while being in this body, then you are beyond the control of Lord Brahma. You're beyond the so-called time factor. Your presence here is completely managed by Kṛṣṇa. To the extent to which someone is surrendered to Krishna's devotees, to that extent their lifespan is decided by Kṛṣṇa. There's very little of material energy that interferes with how long they're going to be here, how long they're going to be exacting their pastimes. So in one sense, what I'm saying is just a change of character, as we see, is also a distinction in what is being experienced by us. And it was experienced by Bilva Mangal Thakur. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribo?
As you were saying, the time factor, recently we have one example just, happened. There was one Mataji, Ishwari Mataji. She just passed, she left her body on 13th of March. But she was a very devoted Mataji. All the time she was serving Kṛṣṇa and his devotees. And, she just passed away very peacefully. The day before she was cooking, she cleaned everything. Midnight she went to sleep. And in the morning, she never wake up. So early morning, she left her body.
Yeah.
And so, that's why we just understood or experienced, the example is left by Kṛṣṇa that, yes, like devotees, they, she's just gone without any suffering. She left.
Well, see, true. See, the point is that some of us, sometimes there can be, apparently from an external perspective, sometimes there can be from an external perspective, we may observe someone is suffering from an external perspective. Someone is being inconvenienced by an external perspective, from our perspective. It doesn't mean that they haven't transcended, because we have to distinguish the fact that externally our observation of suffering could be very different from what they are experiencing being in those conditions. Say, for example, a living example in the sense that something that we can talk about is His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj. No one medically would say that it is functional. His body is functioning.
Right.
No one medically would say it's efficiently functioning, his body. But it is incredible to see how clear he is when he speaks, how clear he is when he understands what he must do. Even now, he is very much in the process of basically serving Prabhupada to the maximum extent he can. It's fascinating, literally fascinating to see how he is functioning. This goes to also a second understanding. A normal misconception in the Western world is to associate bodily dysfunction with longevity. How long someone is going to be on the planet, according to the Vedic system, has nothing to do with how healthy they are. One could be very healthy and leave soon. One could be unhealthy and just continue. In the case with devotees, they're kept on the planet to the extent to which there's a need for service. And especially if they're advanced, you may see them suffer, but it doesn't quite mean that they haven't done their part. Externally, they may appear to be suffering, but internally, they're functioning fully in gratitude and in the spiritual sense. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are many examples of both types. The peaceful departure ones, and there's also the one that prolongs and then suffers and struggles a little bit from an external perspective, but in reality, they are quite very much in touch with the spiritual reality. So they are not suffering. From an observational standpoint, we know they are suffering. We think they are suffering. We think they are suffering. Yeah. So I was just wanting to simply say that it's difficult to make the conclusion of who is suffering and who is not suffering for devotees. It's difficult.
But these are the examples, like they are not actually on the bodily platform, because
True. Yeah, which is what I'm saying. The bodily platform is a platform of ignorance. If the soul which is within the bodily platform is in touch with spiritual reality, then that body is not decaying in the same pace as a regular body. You realize? So that's the difference. It's not. It's fully functional. Yes. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
This is the question. Okay. I wanted to ask you, it is my experience, I could say, most of the time, if you want to do something at home, you really become a bit lethargic. But when you want to serve in the temple, when you go there, the service, so your whole mood is, even you're sick, you are not sick anymore when you want to do that service. And in fact, I always get told, my husband says, I don't know how you operate. You're not, you're very different. I also don't understand why it happens like that. Is it, I only
going to the
God's
temple.
mercy? Huh?
In terms of going to the temple.
Go in temple and do service, always fit. I'm sure that most of the devotees would vouch for this. Always fit.
True.
You want to do some service, and so this is also could be a reason that we are coming out of mode of ignorance, and we are mostly, is that what you can say?
True. If the place of worship, which is the temple, the worship standards have been maintained very well, the deities have been taken very good care of, and the atmosphere there is very well surcharged, then there will be a lot of opportunity for us to come in touch with spiritual reality, which could motivate us.
Yeah.
And devotional service is also about sadhu sangha. So when we come in touch with those who are enthusiastic,
Yeah.
then we also are given an opportunity to transcend. Association is everything. It's everything, because we get an opportunity regardless of being able to come in touch with those who have transcended. So it motivates us to transcend as well. You see, when we are sick, when we make an attempt to keep a regular schedule, that's an opportunity for us to experience transcendence. Because now you're transcending the limitations of the body, you're transcending the limitations of the mind, and as a consequence, you're experiencing transcendence. Not to say that this can consistently happen prolonged period of time for many, many years, but it is an opportunity for us to experience transcendence when we engage in service while we are sick, because then we are transcending the limitations of the body, and we are saying that yes, that is possible, that spiritual activity is not dependent on the body. So that conclusion can be reached. So it's actually a powerful realization, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure.
Yes,
Thank you.
we all experience that, as Mataji said, that when we are at the temple, it's really different.
True.
So I have one question. Like Lord Brahma's day is 1000 Chatur Yuga, and also the night is also 1000 Chatur Yuga. So what does happen during Lord Brahma's night time?
There's destruction. There are two levels of destruction. There is Mahapralay, which occurs at the end of Lord Brahma's life. And then there is destruction that occurs during the end of his day as well. So then what happens is the lower planetary systems are destroyed. Then they return back to their original state. And then creation of the lower planetary systems begins again in the next day when he wakes up.
But we don't.
Sorry? Sorry, I couldn't get your question. Perhaps I couldn't hear it.
Sorry. Right. During our night, we go to sleep. So for us, it's ignorance. But we don't experience Lord Brahma's night time, do we?
No,
Maybe
we don't.
We are not there. We go to it's a destruction time.
Yeah, we are not there. We return back to primordial clay. We come back again. Sometimes they touch the lower planetary systems. Sometimes they touch the Earth, and sometimes they don't.
Okay.
It is not a fixed plan. When they see that there's tremendous amount of mode of ignorance on the planet, which is our planet, then they feel compelled to start all over again. Then this planet experiences the so-called what do you call it? Destruction, pralaya. Yeah, deluge, as we call it. The complete destruction is experienced by this flooding, there's cleansing, like we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and this happens during the night as well. It can happen in different junctions. It can happen in different junctions. Some amount of destruction can happen.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo?
Charlotte, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Haribo.
I wanted to ask, you're talking about the difference between spiritual and material time, and that beyond the river, there's spiritual time, and then coming downward, there's material time, sinking into ignorance. And I'm trying to understand what the difference is, whether it's a difference in kind or a difference in degree. So as we're rising up into the higher planets, you're removing the ignorance, and therefore it's a difference in kind of the degree of time that's experienced. And then if there's beyond the spiritual, beyond the river, that there's actually whether it's just another difference in degree when you enter into the spiritual realm, or whether it's actually a difference in kind, or whether it's both. If my question is clear.
I'm going to make an attempt, Charlotte. That's fine. I can ask for questions again to see this. When you say difference in kind, there isn't any destruction beyond the river in terms of destruction. There is what is it which we talk about when we talk about destruction? When we talk about destruction, for example, we talk about destruction of the body. And when we talk about destruction of the body in this planet, we are talking about destruction of relationships that come along with the body. Now, when we go higher into the spiritual sky, we have a spiritual body that doesn't come in touch with material mode of destruction. And the relationships are permanent and they're eternal. So what is it which doesn't get destroyed? It's both. As we go higher, even within the material creation, our consciousness being higher allows us entry into higher realms. It is to be read in Srimad Bhagavatam. We find there are sages who have the ability to travel back and forth between higher and lower realms. And the ability to travel higher essentially means that you have to have a qualitative quality. You have to have an internal consciousness that matches the realm which you're trying to go to, which allows you to access life, which allows you to access experiences. You may not have a body which allows you to be there, but you can experience and have realizations of what it is to be there. That is one. So it is a matter of both. Then there's also the environment. The environment, as you go higher, is less destructive because it's predominated by goodness. So you have an environmental factor which doesn't destroy the bodies there. And you have bodies there which are composed of subtle matter, and subtle is always longer lasting than gross. So it lasts longer. It's also predominated by goodness. Plus, you also have a matter of consciousness of people there, which allows them to stay there and experience what is to be experienced there. So, for example, when someone of a higher realm watches us from above and they see our existence, for them it could be quite appalling in terms of what we are trying to pursue and what we are trying to basically get in our lives. It could be very appalling when they see us saying, why are they struggling for this? It looks so minimal in terms of an achievement. It looks so minimal in terms of an experience of enjoyment. The quality of pleasure is so low. We as devotees also experience this when we look at others. For example, after coming in touch with devotional service quite profoundly, our consciousness has changed, and we look at the outside world and we reach conclusions. We see what are they enjoying? How could they possibly enjoy this? We sometimes talk about it as well as devotees. In a similar fashion, the quality of enjoyment differs because the consciousness has changed. The environment is such with goodness, so it's more preservative than destructive. And the bodies themselves are such that they last longer. As a consequence, the whole definition of pleasure is longer lasting. Because when we talk about pleasure, it has to have a more profound level of knowledge. And pleasure also has to have a certain longevity associated with it. In lower realms, the body being destroyed destroys relationships, and as a consequence, it is not long-lasting. The body being destroyed and is being destructive in certain ways also has pleasure, which is constantly interrupted by many such things. No matter how long it is, it's interrupted. So in many, many ways, I can say it is different. I was just wanting to say it's just not one or the other. It's in many, many ways, it's very different. In the spiritual sky, you have a spiritual body which is never subject to change. And the relationship is always intact with Kṛṣṇa. So the interactions with Kṛṣṇa are constant, and the pleasure is constant. And one who is in that level of pleasure basically understands that it is never interrupted. That's why we say apratihata ahaituki. Apratihata, it cannot be interrupted. These are two definitions of what pleasure and what happiness are. So if you take these two definitions and apply it, you will notice that these two definitions strictly belong to the spiritual sky, but can also relatively be applied to higher realms such as Lord Brahma's realm or the Devas and so on. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I addressed your question, but
it's just because I recently read Prabhupada said he says time is the basic measurement of the activity of the senses by which we calculate past, present, and future. So I'm trying to understand, does that mean that it's a material understanding of time, and the further you are in ignorance, the more you are likely to live in the lament over the past or try and live in the future, the more in ignorance you are. Is
true, because the deeper the level of ignorance, greater the absorption of the senses. The greater the absorption of the senses, lower the grade of happiness, greater the destruction that is being experienced as well. The extent to which one is attached because of the senses, to that extent they would experience misery due to that attachment when the attachment is destroyed or when it breaks down. So what Srila Prabhupada is alluding to there is understanding time is basically a matter of us understanding how these senses interact with their objects. The more materialistic a person is, the greater their involvement of their senses with their objects, greater their experience of an end, because there's a beginning, there's an end to the senses. In a similar fashion, someone who is of a higher stature, who is completely situated in the spiritual sky, they're not dealing with the material senses, they're dealing with the spiritual senses, and those don't experience any kind of destruction. It's beyond material time.
Okay, all right, yes, thank you.
Sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Krishna Vani
Yes.
Dasi. Prabhuji, as you were explaining about, God in Chaturmasya time, God and demigods goes to sleep. But last year I asked, His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Swami, and he says only Lord Vishnu goes to sleep.
True.
So, is it
Lord
true?
Vishnu goes to sleep.
Lord Vishnu goes to sleep, or all the demigods also goes to sleep?
It's only Lord Vishnu goes to sleep, but then the demigods are not available easily. They are not available. It is Lord Vishnu who goes to sleep in those 4 months. True. Demigods are not available. See, the whole concept of time is such that, for example, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear Bhishma Dev is wanting to wait until the Uttarayana begins. Why so? Because when you leave your body, when we leave our bodies, we need helpers.
Yeah.
Helpers need to be in place. So that's the reason why we talk about leaving the body in the Dham.
Yeah.
Because things are more easily available, as helpers are more easily available in the Dham compared to, let's say, some other part of the world in a relative sense. In a similar fashion, different times of the year, help is less available versus help is more available. As devotees, we don't really have to worry so much about when we are leaving, as long as we are using every day that we are on this planet very effectively. We don't have to worry about the test if we are preparing each day. So in that sense, we don't need to so much focus on the final test. If the student is preparing for the exam on a daily basis, what's the concern about meeting the final test? So in that sense, we don't want to worry about opportune moments. We don't want to worry about whether we'll be here, we'll be there. We don't want to worry even about whether we can remember Kṛṣṇa, as long as we're making and giving our very best on a daily basis. Because Kṛṣṇa takes over. Kṛṣṇa says, if you don't remember, I'll remember you. So there's nothing to worry about.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Yeah, but from a material perspective, from a mundane perspective, these factors do count. Lord Vishnu sleeping, these factors do count, and that's the reason why activity is not engaged in, which is not spiritual. Non-spiritual activities are not engaged in during Chaturmas.
Not auspicious, that's why. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure.
Hare Krishna Shivandan Prabhu. Just wanted to check. The first expansion from Balaram is Mula Sankarshan, and then first is Maha Sankarshan. So is it from Mula Sankarshan comes Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, or is it belongs to first expansion?
From Mula Sankarshan, basically, when you look at the Purusha avatars, they come from Maha Sankarshana. Then it is said from Balaram, there is a first quadruple expansion. There is Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna. Then from the Sankarshana of the first expansion, that Sankarshana is called Mula Sankarshana. And from him comes a second expansion, which is called Maha Sankarshana. Does it make sense?
Okay, so second, yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hari Bol Prabhu.
Hari Bol. A very simple question, like now when Mahavishnu inhales, the universe was created, then we have Karnodaksha Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, and between Brahma. And we also say that because of your material desire, we take birth in this material world. So where exactly we belong to then? Because we are nowhere in this like when inhaling time, or when Brahma is there, when Kshirodaksha Vishnu, nowhere we are there. So where exactly?
Oh, we are there. Oh, we are there, Prabhu. So, yeah.
Where exactly we belong, Prabhu? Then, like, because when he inhales, universe was created, or universe was destroyed that time. So where exactly we are? And second question is, like Lord Kṛṣṇa is actually doing the rasa. He is actually enjoying, and he's the source of all the sources. So with whom actually he is enjoying then, when the universes are not there? So how he is enjoying? Like with whom he is enjoying?
Okay, so two questions. Let's take one at a time.
Yeah.
The first question is, where are we?
Yeah.
Basically, along with the universes, we also enter into Karnodaksha Vishnu's pores of his skin. He is the cause, so we enter back. Okay?
Okay.
And then he glances at material nature. And when he glances at material nature, he impregnates material nature with souls. So we come back into the material nature.
Okay.
Does it make sense? So that is how we go and we come back.
So before we come first time into this material world, I'm not getting this. Like before we come first time into this material world, where were we?
Okay, so this is an ontological question. First, we need to understand that when I am talking about time, I spoke of the fact. Can you put yourself on mute, Prabhu, because there's some disturbance coming when you're not muted? I'll reply and then you can ask questions. Thank you. So when we talk about material time, our 1 year is 1 day of the demigods. Lord Brahma's 1 day, there are 1,000 cycles, and 1 night there are 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas. So the point is, there's an enormous amount of time. When we look at when creation began and when creation started, we are looking at eternal point in time, which is very difficult to conceive as to when it is, even if there was one in the beginning. Do you understand? So for example, when someone says and uses the word long time, that long time need not be defined as being finite within our understanding. So there's a chance that we may never be able to understand how many years or what is it. Does it make sense? Because
Yes.
we literally are looking at something which is far beyond our conception of understanding. We can't understand it. Okay? So where were we? Basically, when did it begin? These are questions where it says, Shastra says, time immemorial. Time immemorial means basically that you can't really have any material conception of what this time is, because we can't even conceive of what Lord Brahma's day is, what to say of Sri Kṛṣṇa Vishnu's breathing in and breathing out, and the manifestation of universes and the going back. What to say of when it began, when it did not begin. What to say of when did Krishna first expand into Balaram. We can't conceive of it. So we need to look at it from the perspective of understanding that a very long period of time, which is inconceivable, is also eternal time. It is also eternal time. So we need to understand that that's also eternal for our understanding.
Okay.
Yeah? So that's the first point. Now, where were we? We were impregnated by Kṛṣṇa Vishnu into primordial matter. So consider that the lokas and everything were present. When he unmanifests and the universe is created, he is glancing and he's impregnating these souls into the universe. What is that particular glance? Everything in the spiritual sky has a particular personality. The glance of Kṛṣṇa Vishnu, who is also called Mahavishnu, is Lord Shiva. That glance, he is glancing at matter. Who is that? That is Mother Durga, the consort of Lord Shiva. So now you have the father and you have the mother, and the souls are again being created and populated in the world. Lord Shiva considering the father, Mother Durga, the divine mother, and the souls are being created and populated into the world. So this population comes
Okay.
on. Now, the second question of yours as to who does Krishna enjoy with? Who does Krishna enjoy with if everybody is there? Krishna's Leela occurs in the spiritual realm. So it's eternal. He is always in contact with his spiritual associates who are themselves eternal. The realm which Krishna is operating in is eternal. Those associates are always with him. So someone who goes back to the spiritual sky never comes back. As a consequence, you have an eternal Leela which is progressing. So that is not dependent on the manifestation and unmanifestation of universes in the material sky. The destruction of the material sky and so on, it doesn't depend. And we should also understand different universes in the material sky, they are entering into Sri Kṛṣṇa Vishnu's body at different paces. So there is still avatars going on in different universes. They end their avatars. The different universes reach the point of destruction at different times. It does not all end at the same time or begin at the same time. It is ending and beginning in different time cycles based on its own nature. Just as we have different age spans, different universes have different limits and different age spans.
Okay.
Any other question? Yes, Haribol.
Prabhuji, as you are explaining that spiritual world is eternal, but when Krishna decides to come to the material world, and he also comes with his entourage, his associates. So when they come, so still in the spiritual world, activities and pastime is still going on, and he comes here. So the expansion comes here, or what happens?
Now, we use the word manifestation and unmanifestation. Yeah? So now, I'm sitting here in Vrindavan. While I'm sitting here in Vrindavan, I'm in Ramanreti. In Ramanreti, in Vrindavan, this is a very special place which Srila Prabhupada has chosen. And he chose this place because there are so many wonderful pastimes and so on which are also occurring. In other words, all of this is a part of Krishna's plan. The point I want to make is when you step out of a building here in Ramanreti in Vrindavan, it looks like Vrindavan in UP, Uttar Pradesh in India, but in reality, this is the spiritual sky. This is the spiritual sky. So in this spiritual sky, as I speak from here, there are pastimes occurring around me that I can't see because they're unmanifest. There is a time period when these pastimes become manifest to the material, the eye. And during the time period, we say Krishna is manifest in Vrindavan, and these pastimes are occurring. Does it make sense? It is occurring all the time, even here. It is eternal. This particular piece of land in India is an extension of the spiritual sky. There's a very thin material layer on top of this land. That material layer tells us that it's a part of India. It tells us it's a part of Uttar Pradesh. It tells us that it is a part of Mathura district, so on and so forth. But this is the spiritual sky eternally. So the point is, Krishna is always in the spiritual sky. His pastimes become manifest and they become unmanifest in the material realm. So they are never an expansion that is being seen. But it is to be said that when it becomes fully manifest in the material realm, at that point in time, it is called Bhauma Leela, where he is having Leela on earth. And when it becomes unmanifest, the Leela continues in the same spot in Vrindavan, but it is not visible to the eyes. Does it make sense?
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare.
Sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry, first of all, maybe it's such an ignorant question I'm going to ask. What I never tried to understand this creation because it is really beyond my understanding. I always thought it is better I take it as whatever say. I have faith on that. Never wanted to understand that fully because I really can't understand. But with your class, at least somewhat, I understood what it's saying. Another thing I wanted to ask, why Prabhu we came back, but we know when we go back to Krishna, we won't come back. What is the reason why we came back? Shouldn't I ask this question? Why we came back?
Here's the situation. Where there's a first explanation that you never come back from the spiritual sky.
Yes.
And then there is this whole thing is that we rebelled and we came back. Yeah?
Yes.
So we shouldn't think that Shastra is contradictory. Let's understand it a little carefully.
Okay.
The conclusion is that would you say that you were in touch with absolute spiritual reality if you were in touch with Krishna when Krishna was having his pastimes or Lord Ram was having his pastimes on the planet? Would you say that you were in absolutely touch with spiritual reality during that time? I'm asking you a question.
No.
Yes?
No.
Why not?
If I would have, then I don't think. No.
Because you see, when Krishna is having his pastimes on the planet,
Yeah.
it is non-different from his pastimes in Goloka. So let's assume that when we say that we were in touch with spiritual reality and we had gone back to the spiritual sky and we were having spiritual experiences, it essentially meant that we were in touch with spiritual reality while it occurred within the material realm. Because we were in touch with material nature as well, we did not accept that spiritual reality, just as we see that when Krishna appeared 5,000 years back, there were quite a few who didn't accept him as the Samam Bonam, did not accept him as the Supreme Lord. There were quite a few who challenged Lord Ram when he appeared. The point I'm trying to make is that there was ample opportunity for us when they appeared, but we challenged them when they were on the planet because we were in touch with material energy. So we have to understand that when someone is making a statement that you were in the spiritual sky, you were in touch with Krishna, you rebelled against him, they're talking about the fact when we were in touch with the spiritual reality of the Lord while he was in the material world. And at that point in time, instead of being attracted to him and instead of serving him, we rebelled against him because we wanted to lord it over. Does it make sense?
Oh, yes.
That possibility?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
That's exactly what they mean. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because that reality is, because once you cross over and go back to the spiritual sky, there's little opportunity for you to be attracted to material universes because you're not in touch with material reality. But if you are in touch with material reality, whilst Krishna is here engaging in his pastimes, and people start thinking, even Lord Brahma is bewildered. Who is this bluish, blackish boy? Who does he think he is? Lord Indra is bewildered. He is sending forth clouds, and Govardhan Leela occurs where he is challenging the authority of the Lord. Ravana steals Mother Sita. Ravana steals Mother Sita from Lord Ram. These are examples of those who are in touch with spiritual reality who are not able to recognize spiritual reality, and they're being rebellious. This is exactly an example.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yes, thank you. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
Anything else before we finish?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Prabhu, you mentioned that Krishna gives us the ability to understand Srimad Bhagavatam once we've engaged in Vaishnava seva, and you said that this is permanent. But what about when one loses the taste for reading, and what does that suggest or imply?
It's a very good question. That implies that we have done the opposite, which is offend Vaishnavas. When we serve Vaishnavas, mercy is given. That mercy is withdrawn when we offend Vaishnavas, and we lose the ability and taste for coming in touch with nectar. Does it make sense? It's just the opposite.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Haripal Prabhu, like as in your previous classes, you mentioned that by serving pure devotees, we get ability to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, but Prabhu, my question is how everybody don't get a chance to serve the pure devotees. So what we should do, and how would we can approach them, or how we can serve them?
Okay, so first is we don't want to distinguish and try and see that I will not serve you because you're not pure. I won't serve you because you're not pure. We don't want to be distinguishing the opportunity for service by, first of all, trying to determine who is pure and who is not pure. Because if someone is really fully pure, unless we are of their level, we would never be able to recognize them. So that's the first point. So what is it that we should do? We should work on ourselves to improve our quality of service regardless of the opportunity that's been given to us, regardless of where we are, regardless of who is surrounding us. We should improve our ability to serve and the quality of service. This in turn would allow us to make steady progress, and we indeed would come in touch and attract those who are with Krishna. Does it make sense?
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for clarification.
Sure.
Very
All right, so maybe we can take one more question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
The Lord Brahma's day is so long, but does it last for him as long as, like our day, it goes so quickly for us. We run out of time every day. For Lord Brahma, being such a long day for him in our terms, does it feel like a normal day, just a 12-hour day, like for us?
Hard to say, Prabhu, because I'm not sure. That's one. But yeah, but I can tell you this much. It is said that when a jiva, a soul, becomes pure, fully pure, then he reaches the position or the potency of Lord Brahma. So a jiva, an ordinary soul like us, when they work on themselves and attain purity, then they have an opportunity to take on the position of Brahma in a subsequent lifetime or at the end of this life. So the point is that every one of us at the end of our lives have an opportunity, if we desire to play God and want to lord it over, we might become Brahma, and we might end up serving as Lord Brahma of some universe. So there's a danger, an intrinsic danger, even in desiring to be Lord Brahma, because that can keep us for trillions and trillions of years away from Krishna, preoccupying our minds during the day in the process of creation, and in the night it gets destroyed. You wake up again, you create, and then it gets destroyed. My goodness. Yeah. So there's this intrinsic danger. So that's a lesson that we can surely learn, is that you don't want to spend trillions of years in the position of Lord Brahma. You want to even escape all of that and go into the land of Krishna to serve him. So imagine being stuck and just doing this. I don't know. It sounds quite boring, but I'm sorry if I couldn't really answer your question fully, because I don't know. But I was just reflecting on the fact that a long period of being away from Krishna is indeed frightening. And Lord Brahma basically spends trillions of years, and it's quite frightening. It's appalling, actually.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sure, Prabhu, sure. Okay, so I think we'll end it here. And thank you very much for being patient with my timing. I'll try my best to be on time next week, the following week. I'll be a little bit more diligent, and hopefully we would conclude 1.3 and 1.3, yeah, 1.3, first canto, third chapter, and then we'll lay the foundation. So what I am making an attempt is to lay a foundation. So I'm trying to re-emphasize factors which are very essential while we are studying the different cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, so that we process those experiences through the foundation. And this would allow us to appreciate the 10th canto when we reach it eventually, whenever it is. So we'll go a little bit slow, but we'll lay the foundation strong. So we'll meet again next week at 10:30 a.m. your time, and we'll continue the third chapter. Most likely we would conclude the third chapter the following week. Thank you so much.